afternoon and welcome to another Lockdown Live. And today's we on level 4, and basically what it means is we can buy some stuff at the shops that we couldn't normally buy. But then I went to all this warehouse earlier, and all this warehouse was still locked. Went on their Facebook and says certain stores are open. So I don't know what us in the rural areas has done that we don't have to be able to buy stuff like building materials and everything. But right, so today I'm chatting to a gentleman by the name of Dewald. Dewald is one of my good clients. Cederberg Wines, amazing wine. So let's get going and get Dewald in here, and let's see where this conversation goes. We can chat about lockdown and wine and all those good things.
Kan jy nou hoor? Hy's so full sterkte. Kan jy my hoor? Sorry, praat gou weer. Ek kan jy my hoor, Dewald, of nie?
Hoor vir jou.
Okay, maar ek kan jou nie hoor nie, daar's 'n probleem. Praat gou 'n bietjie.
Sê weer.
Okay, ja, jy moet maar net praat, jy het net is min gepraat, dis al. As ek te hard of moet ek my klank bietjie sagter maak?
Nee, jy moet sag.
Wel, kan as ek fyn. Okay.
Ja. Ja, nie as die mense nie hoor jy moet hulle net hulle rekenaars harde.
Okay, good. Ek het kan jy mooi sien as ek hom so hou, moet ek hom bietjie meer afhou, is dit fyn so?
Nog 'n bietjie op.
Dit kom tilt of so.
Sien hom.
Okay, good. Ek het so vier verskillende Sauvignon Blancs. So een van Cederberg, dan Ghost Conragallas, Longaví van Chili en dan die Wild Ferment.
Okay, nice. Right, let's chat in English so people can. Yeah. We are live on YouTube. Yeah. So how's everything been in the Cederberg since we've been locked up?
Sure. Yeah, Dewald, it was a fantastic time. First of all, I'm not used to stay at home because I travel quite a lot. So to be at home for 35 days, locked up in the beautiful Cederberg Mountains was absolutely heaven. It's amazing. We haven't seen one tourist. We haven't seen one car. We've opened an incredible amount of wine for self-consumption, which was really the good part. But it's just fantastic spot to be locked up.
So how much of your old wine have you still got left now?
I've got a wine fridge that can take about, say, 128 bottles, but it's always about 90. So I normally finish it completely and then I stock it up completely. But I must tell you, I think I've got 3 left, so it's completely empty. So Monday morning, it's time to stock up. But we've got a lot of nice old vintages lying around.
Oh, cool. And how was the rest of the season? I was there at the end of February, just before there was full swing. So how did it finish? Because I know there was this period where you guys weren't allowed to make wine. How did that go?
Dewald, sorry guys, it's International Sauvignon Blanc Day. So by the way, I'm exceptionally thirsty. So I just opened a nice glass of wine, a nice glass of Cederberg Sauvignon, by the way, that you just know what's in my glass, just to be enjoyed. I think it's the right time of the day. So we were very lucky. We physically finished picking the day before lockdown. It was our earliest vintage ever. So normally we finished just last week, March, first week of April, but we've finished basically the day before lockdown, and we were allowed to continue in the cellar to finish the harvest. This is what they didn't understand, because it's a fermentation process, you can't just stop it. So we worked with a very skeleton crew till last week.
Okay, so but all the wine is sort of made and in barrels.
Yeah, it's a little bit more complicated this year, obvious, like with any other business, because our biggest problem is that our barrels from France couldn't arrive in time. So this will, if we're lucky, it will probably be up in the mountains this week. So we've got a massive backlog of work, specifically on the red wines that's predominantly still in tank and not in barrels. But yeah, everything finished beautifully. Sauvignons and the whites look quite okay. It's not the rockstar vintage. It's I must say, it's in my opinion quite an average vintage, specifically on whites. When you normally ask a winemaker what's the vintage like, it's always better than the previous one. I'm just very honest, and for us, I think we were quite spoiled in 2019 with a fantastic aromatic vintage. But it was too warm for such a long period. Like for 16 days, it was over 30 degrees Celsius. So on the whites, they wines with great structure, but they're not super aromatic. Definitely a much better red wine vintage. We finished in time, everything finished fermentation. So from Monday on, we still with a small crew that we work, but it's looking very good at this stage. Yeah.
But with the red wine sitting so long in tanks, it's not them that much before they go into barrels, or is it?
No, so we will receive. Yeah, no, it's not the issue really, because it's basically a 10-day period that you couldn't. It's always nice to do your malolactic fermentations in Nieuwoudt specifically. Luckily, we had a relatively bigger red wine vintage last year, and it was just coincidence that we've kept a lot of the older barrels, because we didn't know what to expect from this vintage, because we had a lot of frost damage, because this is very high elevation vineyards. So at least we had a little bit older oak, so it's just much more work that your barrels arrive so late, but it's not a train smash.
Okay. And are you going to put out any special 2020 COVID version of wines, just to, I wouldn't say commemorate the master we've got, but just to remember it by?
And Dewald, I think definitely no, because I think the whole COVID-19 will get a lot of blame for many things for the years to come. So if a wine is not up to super standard, it would be easy to say it's due to COVID-19. So this is what we try to not to do, because this is one thing about Cederberg, is the consistency. It's always up there. We haven't got vintages that's 1 year, it's a vintage with very high quality, and the other year it's an average vintage. So we're very lucky because of our isolation and extreme winter temperatures, there's no diseases up in Cederberg. So we haven't got big fluctuations in vintages. So we must just make sure that you drink some super 2020s from July, specifically on the whites. But everything is delayed. So there's obvious new releases will be like 2 months later. The supply chain is very difficult at this stage. Like Constal stopped producing glass, so it will take them roughly a week to start up all their equipment. So everything will be delayed by at least two months. So it's very difficult to plan at this stage, but it's part of the deal. So it's not a major train smash.
So just to give a brief overview of your farm, you guys used to be a fruit producing farm up in the Cederberg.
Yes, man, it's the 1st of May. It's International Sauvignon Blanc Day, and you're so super serious, eh? It feels for me like a Saturday. I'm more in a mood of drinking some nice wine than to have such a political correct chat, but that's fine. Yeah, it's an old property. It's the first Nieuwoudt. The first Nieuwoudt came here, I think we've got a slightly bad connection, came here in 1893. And they farmed to tobacco and sheep for about 70 years. And in the 50s, my grandfather started planting the first fruit up in the Cederberg. 72, the first wine grapes produced the first wines in 77, 78. I thought actually last night, with the end of the lockdown, I want to open up one of the old 78 vintages of Cabernet, but I will keep it for Monday when the whole team is here. And yeah, so I've started up in Cederberg. I've studied viticulture and enology, came back in 1998, and then it's basically when we changed from fruit 100% to vineyards.
Okay, and so, and your journey from that, like wine, you were just a fruit farmer. So what was the in converting it completely to wine and ditching the fruit? I know that with the logistics of where you are, traveling with fruit is quite difficult. So what made you make that decision?
It was actually the basic stuff that you learn at Stellenbosch in the first week, except to drink much more, was basically what we've got up in Cederberg. So I still remember I came back the first Friday after 2 weeks, and we had a Friday evening braai with my dad, and I told him, I think you farm with the wrong produce for the last century. So he looked at me and I thought, probably this bloody student, this is what they learn and they're too clever. But this place is fantastic for late ripening reds. We've got amazing soils, very old shales that you don't find anywhere basically in South Africa, or very limited spots, beautiful sandstone locations, ultimate climate. Because of the elevation of 1,100 meters above sea level, it's a big difference between day and night temperatures. So it stretches your ripening period quite a lot, and you've got much longer hanging time and much more physiological ripeness on the red specifically. And then there's no diseases because of the isolation. So it's a fantastic spot to produce wine.
Oh well, and it's obviously been working for you guys really well, and you've got some amazing wines. So what has been the biggest impact that COVID-19 has had on you? I know that the wine guys are moaning terribly about not being able to export and all those things. So what do you see in the near future for that, specifically with you guys?
I think it's wine is the relationship game. So luckily we've got some really amazing agents abroad that we've built up over the years, and they mainly also family-run businesses. So, but it will take a very long time to get the whole export thing going. And in South Africa, it's more the uncertainty. When will this whole thing open up again? The biggest problem here is mainly the on-trade, more the restaurant trade, that will suffer terribly. I think probably 50% will not open up again. And this is our client base, and that you've worked and that you've created over years. So if you got a strong brand with a very good feel to it, I think the retail is relatively easy, because people will still, they're thirsty now as well, but they will still take your product from a shelf. But the restaurant trade, this is a terrible situation at this stage.
And well, now looking back, the old timers weren't too stupid by farming tobacco. I think you would have made more money with tobacco now than you would with wine in the next couple of months.
No, but we want to plant tobacco one day. I still want to do a few cigars here. It's a fantastic spot. But yeah, no, Dewald, this thing is a massive impact on the wine industry. It's one of the industries that's, because it was basically 6 weeks after you get the whole export thing going again, and we've lost not just Cederberg, but as a more brand South Africa, we've lost a massive amount of shelf space due to our competitors abroad. And as you know, wine is it's a fantastic export product for brand South Africa. In tourism, on every given day, there's a guide, a winemaker or a wine sales guy that telling the good stories about South Africa, and that's all gone in a very short period of time. So the longer the international travel and wine is not available from South Africa abroad, it will be a massive influence on the goodwill and the feel good about the country. Because if you sell an apple, with all respect, it's no identity, but on wine you can taste it, you can feel it. It's a direct reflection of a country.
And other countries, do they have any restrictions on their wine? Like you say, you're losing shelf space. So like Chile and these guys, can they still export?
Yeah, no, we're the only country in the world that was completely a ban on exports in wine. So there was a lot of, I must really congratulate like Vinpro and Wines of South Africa. They've done a fantastic job, because people see wine as alcohol as well, and to restrict the transport of alcohol, we try to solve a different problem, and then just have a complete ban on alcohol. And we all know that, but yeah, this is for another day.
Yeah, it's one of those unfortunate things, and what it's impacting on people. It's like with me, I can't go work now. I can't go. My clients like be out in the field, so it's not like I'm going to be an issue there, but still might get issues along the way into getting there and doing the job, and so it's terrible. It's really terrible.
Listen, Dewald, can I tell you a little bit? I've brought 4 Sauvignon Blancs here, and you can see I've skipped my lunch wine today, because I thought normally with this visual tastings, you don't spit, you always consume. So after 10-15 minutes, you can start feeling it. After 45 minutes, you're in a very lucky space. But I've got 4 wines on Sauvignon Blanc Day, because we're one of the top producers of this varietal in South Africa, with a very good reputation. So I can quickly, if you want to, I can show you what I've got here.
Oh, go for it.
So we've got the Cederberg Sauvignon 2019. Fantastic wine, a wine with a great reputation. The only high altitude Sauvignon in South Africa, very clean cut, fresh, and the lifestyle. So if you can buy this in Woolies as well now, because we try to keep a little bit out of retail and more concentrate on on-trade, but you can buy Cederberg in a few selected outlets. But so massive difference between the Cederbergs and the Ghost Corner. So this is one from the mountains, very clean cut, fresh, and alive. Then I've got one, the Ghost Corner. This one is Cape Agulhas. You know this wine. This is 12 kilometers from Cape Agulhas. We've got a beautiful property where we just grow the vineyards there, and main focus is on Sauvignon Blanc and Pinot Noir. In my opinion, this is the kept secret for Sauvignon in South Africa, Elim and Cape Agulhas. Definitely by far the coldest spot in South Africa. I must say I've opened up an older vintage, the 2018 vintage. This is the one that won the SA Sauvignon Blanc trophy last year. But a little bit bigger, fatter in style. This is with 18 was a fantastic Sauvignon vintage. 2009, 2015, 2018, probably the 3 top ones.
What do you think what made the big difference that it was such a good year?
Climate. Only thing. So Sauvignon is a very finicky varietal. That's why normally the best Sauvignons, you need 2 things, or maritime influence, so close proximity to an ocean, or then altitude. So it's amazing, these 2 wines, they made exactly the same yeast strain, same preparation. It's a duplicate in winemaking, but if you taste them, they completely different in flavor profile, on palate. But yeah, Sauvignon Blanc love cooler climate. Okay. And then a very interesting one is the Longa V. So probably people don't know Longa V. This is the one that I produce in Chile, in South America.
That your one?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Is the one that gets produced in Chile?
Yeah, so I've got a very nice project with a very good winemaker, Julio Bijon, from Chile. So we've produced wine for about 12 years together in Chile. So we produce it there, label it, bottle it, and then I just bring a certain amount back to South Africa. It's becoming a little bit a nightmare with the customs and excise, because I think our net profit on this wine was I think R1.29 because it's quite expensive to import it again, but it's nice to have it available. So this you can get in a few outlets and then predominantly from the farm, but this is from Lida Valley in Chile. So very small little region. It's lying like a horseshoe towards the coast. And it's this vineyard is about 8 kilometers from the cold Pacific. This is the coldest region of the free. And so much more mineral style, but a little big. This is a big boy, yeah.
And I'm very interested. How did you get involved with that?
I think we had too much beer in London one night. No, this was I think that as well. But I know the family quite well. We've got the same UK importer. So every year at the London Wine Trade Fair, it would be South Africa and Chile, obvious. So they always share the stand next to me. And I start knowing the old man, Don Julio first, and he loves Cederberg Sauvignon. So he asked me, yes, can't I? And it was in the beginning of the whole reductive winemaking thing about 12, 15 years ago. So he asked me to come and help them a little bit just on this specific style. And me and his son became very good mates. So we know each other for about 18 years. And we decided, actually, why not tackle a very nice upmarket brand together? So it's a very exciting project. We work with super old vineyards of 144 years old down in Tata Valley. Yeah, this is a story for another time. And so it's Sauvignon, Cabernet, and then old wine since. So, and then we've produced the first Chenin from Chile last year. Yeah.
Nice. And your vineyards down in Elim, how did you get to find them and start with that project from that side?
Dewald, it's we bought the land from Black Oyster Catcher. So this land is between Black Oyster Catcher and the Berrio. And we've got a rental agreement on the Berrio. So most of these, because they had older vineyards, some of the vines or vineyards are still from the Berrio. We pick it in these small 7-kilogram crates, transported in a cold truck up to Cederberg every day, 499 kilometers, not 500, 499. Yeah, and in a refrigerated truck at 5 degrees Celsius. So people think I'm absolutely mad. But overall, they think sometimes I'm a little bit crazy. But it's all about the end result. And this is probably the wild ferment. Not many people know this one. This was basically the first successful natural ferment Sauvignon in South Africa, and absolutely a rockstar wine. This is the one that won that Six Nations Sauvignon Blanc trophy in Australia last year. The first time that New Zealand couldn't get it.
And how much do you wild ferment each year?
How much? How much wild ferment?
Yeah.
Not enough. No, it's one of it's 28 barrels. So I normally say this wine is like having 28 temperamental kits at home for 2 months, because every barrel got its own identity, its own temperament, in a sense. And I must say, Alex Nell, that's doing responsible for all the whites at Cederberg, he became a master with this wine, is to manage every barrel to perfection. But it's a fantastic wine. I must say, you finish a bottle too quickly, but it's like silk. If you drink this wine, it's all natural, no addition of anything, and it's just one of those phenomenal South African Sauvignons.
So it's straight from the press, go into a barrel and see where it goes.
Yeah, this is like it's whole bunch pressing, so we don't de-stem the grapes, whole bunch pressed. So we chill down. We pick its specific spots in vineyards. So it's more a barrels and fruit selection on flavor profile as well. And then whole bunch press like champagne straight into oak, no addition, and then cold fermentation in barrels. So we move these barrels we use air to cool them down. They ferment at 14 degrees Celsius. They never ferment at 13.25 or 14.75. They ferment at 14, because then you get the most consistent fermentation and the most aromatic wines.
Yes.
So we move them day and night out of a cold room. This is a massive amount of work, but the end result is always nice.
Tell me, like, flavored Sauvignon, because there might be a different strain of yeast in one barrel versus the other, or is it pretty consistent between the 28 of them?
No, it's 28 different wines, and that's the beauty of it. No, they're completely different, and that's the success of this wine. This is at the end, you've got so much more components to put one wine together, so they're much more multidimensional. So the style every year is not 150% the same. Obviously, it's the same line and the same output, but no, they're completely different. And that's the beauty, is to find, say, we're lucky if we use about, say, 80% of them. Some years there's some that don't fit the final blend, but we produce in the order of about 28. And we ferment them in 400 liters, so slightly bigger oak, so that it's a little bit less, the ratio between oak and wood is a little bit less. But you must try this. I know people don't know this, but this is thick-ass stuff. Huh? This is the wine that you need to drink on Sauvignon Blanc Day. Lots of it.
Well, I think a lot of people that still got wine is either they've got the old and expensive stuff sitting there and they're looking at it and say, shit, it's time now, I must open up these bottles.
But Dewald, this is the time when you must have a clean start. That you must drink all those wines that you never want to touch because they're so-called too expensive or there's a certain story to them. Drink them now because most of them pass their best. So I always say that 3 to 5 years from vintage, if you don't know when to drink a wine, drink it then. Because they're hanging there in your north-facing inside bry at a small angle and a big fluctuation in temperature. This is the time to open up all the expensive stuff as well, and the ones with a little bit of a story, drink them and stock up after lockdown. If you don't know where to get wine, you can get it from us.
Yeah. It's, last time I was there, Peter brought one of those the 5th-generation Chenin.
Ooh, yeah, no. This is real stuff, huh? I must say, no. This is so the 5th-generation Chenin. That's the top wine of the winery in the whites, but unbelievable stuff. No, just absolutely love it.
It's like stuff. It's so good that you will actually drink yourself drunk from it. It's not one of those where you stop yourself at one glass and say, right now I've had enough. It keeps going. That's amazing. It's
a very unique problem, huh?
Especially if you've got enough of it on hand like you do. Now you can't sell it.
Listen, but lockdown it's obvious the ban on alcohol is still there, and I think most people haven't got any wine or any drinks back at home, and it's actually sad because if you love wine and it's becoming a culture and you can't get hold of it, it's always quite weird. But yeah, I don't think they will lift the ban very soon. Sorry to say. So as you can see, the extension of schools as well. But
yeah, there's been some positive outcomes from having the ban, like this related stuff at the hospitals, less all things. So there's been some positive things regarding it, but for guys like yourself that produce the range stuff, it's difficult. I don't want to talk too much about negative stuff. So
yeah, no, come on. This is the main thing. I thought we will not even mention the Corona and lockdown, because the whole purpose of this is to spread the positive vibe. Huh? There's a lot of negativity, and we need to. I'm always a very positive person, so I always want to spread the positive vibe.
What other interesting projects you busy with? I know that the one that we worked on earlier this year with from Sweden, has that thing gone off the ground?
Yeah, no, everything is on a hold with lockdown. So we will continue after this again. So mainly it's the vineyards at Piekenierskloof. So I work with 2 fantastic farmers up there with old bush vines, and that's going into the Maras brand. So that's the only real exciting new stuff. So we've done the first Maras wines even in cans. And I had last night, I actually took a little can because took the dogs for a run in the Hilux Bucky. And I took a little can of wine for the first time it's a strange concept, but it's quite convenient and you just pour it in a glass anyway. But if you want to have the freedom. So yeah, we've got a lot of, I think the exciting project is this property, Cederberg. We've got a big replanting for the next 10 to 12 years. We will basically replant the whole property, done massive amount of work on soil selection and a little bit new technology of electroconductivity to determine more soil profiles electronically and plant the right rootstocks, and a complete new layout of roads and vineyards and clones. So it's a massive amount of, I think the viticultural part for the next 10 years will be the exciting part for us. And it will be fantastic if we can spend more time up in Cederberg, because this is my love, is farming. So what's the space?
Okay. Yeah, and for people that don't know, that only go there and go to the tasting room and go camp there, that don't get to see where these things grow. Like that one section you've got on the side of the road there, that it's beautiful. It's absolutely amazing. The geology and just the feel and look of the whole land.
Yeah, this is probably one of the most isolated vineyards in South Africa. At Sandpoort, we call that region with the pillars. But it looked like Colorado in a sense, and it's unheard of having vineyards up in such tucked away little microclimates. So we basically moving all the white varietals up to that region. It's much more sandstone, and we've got fantastic results from it. But it will take years, because when I started here, there was no textbook what we must do. So we're busy with, as I say, with a complete new replanting after 20 years. And hopefully we will have more answers in 20 years. But at the end goal is to produce better wines with great identity of place, that they can really talk the language of where they're from, and high altitude and specific soil type. So it's a lot of nice, exciting things for the future. Thanks, Dewald.
So what did the old guy that used to farm in that region say when you came along and said, well, let's rip out all the fruit trees, we're just going to go plant wine? What did people say?
No, I was fired, I think, 7 times in the first week. I still remember the Wednesday 3 times. That was my career highlight. But I came back. Yeah, that region up there was rooibos tea and peaches. But it's quite a lot of wind, fantastic area for whites. Very aromatic, clean cut, fresh from the lifestyles. No, but you must just believe in you must just believe in the output of the product, and it will always be good.
But it must be difficult, especially with the older guys used to a certain thing, and now this guy comes in, completely changes everything around. So what did you say to them when you gave them the first bottle and said,
now, I think the lucky part, my father, he was always my biggest supporter. And it's amazing. I still remember when we decided we want to change it 100% to from fruit to vineyards. It was on over a weekend and a Friday and a Saturday brine. And that Monday morning, he started cutting off the first peach trees. And my mother tried to stop him, to tell him, "Aaron, what the hell are you doing?" And I will still remember his words, "We have decided." And since that day, we've never turned back, and it was with difficulties as well, and but it's with so much joy. And if you can taste such phenomenal wines, And you think back of 21, 22 years of hard labor. It's fantastic to sit on Labour's Day and drink a beautiful glass of Sauvignon.
Yeah, well, it's I've seen a little bit of the background in it behind this wine, and it's different that you guys, some of the techniques that you use versus us produce bulk wine in thousands of liters. There's a attention to detail that is I haven't seen in some of the other wineries.
It's all about attention to detail. So everything that you do, from you plant the first pole, if they're not, always say, if you look at the vineyard poles of a farm, if they're not in a super straight line, then your wine will also sometimes not be in a super straight line as well. And that's the beginning. And it's all about those 3%. I always tell the guys in the cellar, it's all about the small 3%. But if you count all those 3% together, it's 30%. So just do the small basic things right, and you will be always will be rewarded.
And on the tourism side, I know you guys are very big in that. If the Cape Townians know only two mountains. They know Table Mountain Lions, and then they know Cederberg, of which is most of the traffic.
We had a bad connection there, but I
would say that the Cape Townians know two mountains. They know the mountain and they know the Cederberg. And of all that, probably get 90% of the traffic going in that direction. So any exciting things coming up that after this?
Yeah, it's the Cederberg. It's the only real wilderness area so close to Cape Town. So it's within that 2.5 to 3 hours drive. So you can still leave a Friday at 4, work, and in summer you're still here before sunset. And all the big hiking trails of the Cederberg is basically on this property. So the world famous Wolfberg Cracks and the Wolfberg Arch and the Maltese Cross, the Stadsal Caves, the Bushman paintings, the big natural, that whirlpool, the Malgat, where you can jump from 13-meter high rocks into a 9-meter hole. This is fantastic spots, and all the mountain bike trails. And I think a big advantage of Cederberg is there's no cell phone reception, and we don't want to have cell phone reception. I think that day I'm leaving, and it's still gravel roads. They want to tar this road, and luckily we could stop that in a sense, because it will change the atmosphere of the Cederberg forever, and it will change the type of clientele forever. So there's a lot of beautiful things that where you still got this super pristine region and mountains and beauty. And I think it's a fantastic spot specifically for kids. So we cater a lot for younger families with smaller kids, because it's very safe, and it's still a real farm, which is the nice part. And then you can drink some nice wine.
Yes. Put the kids to bed and light the fire, and off you go. Yeah, it's always a treat going up to you guys. It's a real pleasure to work on your farm.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place for photography. With I must say, yes, Dewald, you took some phenomenal pics up here. Huh? This is like heaven with sunset and all these rocks that they start turning with the red colors and sunrises. It's so diverse. It look arid, but it's got so much life in it.
Yeah, there's so much life in between. And what other interesting things that the general people don't know about that you can share with us? Because like you say, everybody comes there, they come and go up to the cracks, come drink some wine. What hidden treasures are there that they don't know about that they should go see or should ask about?
I think the exciting part is the Wolfberg cracks. If you haven't done the Wolfberg cracks, that is when you just stand here and you look up to the cracks, you think it's just another mountain, but it's one of the top 3 hikes in the Western Cape and probably in South Africa. It's just unbelievable to see. I'm actually planning to do it next week again. I've done it 3 times this year. And every time it's just one of those wonders. It's really a fantastic hike to do. You can't believe the rock formations and this huge, massive red rocks around you, where you walk in a little crack of more than 1 kilometer, and you look up 200 meters and you see this massive rock arches that look like highway bridges above you. So that's by far the most exciting and most amazing hike to do. And it's just purity of clean nature without any influence. It's still untouched. I always said it's an old saying of about 20 years ago when I started here. I wanted to have people drinking my wines and think of these mountain ranges unique and untouched. And still today, it's the same philosophy, because when you drink a nice bottle of Cederberg Sauvignon, it must be completely different than the other top 10 wines of South Africa, because it's from a specific spot with a specific identity, and that's Cederberg.
Yeah, it's not a Franschhoek. It's completely different.
A weekend in a Cederberg is too short, unfortunately. And then a thing that became very popular is the observatory. So we've got a private observatory on the farm that's open 3 weekends in a month. Just closed the one closest to full moon. But the stars here and the universe is just unreal. It always feels like you can touch the Milky Way when you look up in the evening to the stars here. So yeah, it's a fantastic spot.
And obviously, with a lot of all these tourists coming in, there should be some odd ones in. I saw a video about a month ago of the guy doing the wingsuit. He jumped from the top of the mountain there, guys.
Yeah, yeah, it was probably not here. I think it's more towards portable side. But you get crazy people. Now we want to keep it very chilled out and relaxed.
Yeah, no, it was because person I know, they were hiking up the cracks, and this guy flew right over.
Shit. Okay, no, I'm not aware of it, but you get these crazy bastards as well. But yeah, the cracks. I know the best photo that in photography you remember that the best ironing competition of extreme ironing, where you sent in a pic of where you iron a shirt at a super extreme spot, and that was the one that won the last best ironing competition, was up in the Wolfberg cracks, where they was hanging between those 2 cracks. Crazy, but anyway. Dewald, I was unfortunately run, so it was fantastic to chat to you.
And hopefully we can see each other face to face soon. We'll see how it goes.
Now we look forward. Yeah, you've got a lot of work that you must finish this year, but thanks for everything that you do. And yes, you've got the right feel. You like a winemaker. You've got the photography between your fingers, and that is amazing to look at your work as well. Piece of art.
It helps when my subject and the area is also beautiful. It does.
Yes, you've got a big job to finish in 2020 and beyond that.
We must make a plan. Okay, David, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and coming on and sharing a little bit of what you guys do up there in the mountains. And I hope we can see each other soon. And
yeah, good luck with and stay safe. It's obvious up here. It's a phenomenal spot to be safe and to be locked up. But everybody that's listening and wherever you will be, you've got a big responsibility for the couple of months ahead. Cheers.
Okay. All right. Thank you, David. Send regards to Jessica and your. See you soon.
Will do. Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.